conspiracy. A lot of people think this is like some kind of conspiracy. It's just
everything
the fact
is a conspiracy.
The kind of person who goes into journalism tends to lean more left because that's why they went into journalism to some degree. They tend to lean more left statistically than and so what happens is you get a high preponderance of that across most media outlets, and then the Fox finds the ones on the other side of that statistic and clumps them all together, and they end up with something that's and it's very shrewd business as far as I'm concerned. I don't have any problem with Fox. I don't watch it a lot, but I don't have any problem with it. I think it's just good business. I think that they figured out they saw a window that was being missed by most of the everybody else. And they took it,
I love how you took a market segmentation approach to why Fox is growing year over year, because that would normally be what I would do. What I think, to add to that, I'm in total agreement, is that prior to the election, I would imagine that the viewers, in general, the viewers that watch Fox couldn't imagine that a black man would be in the White House, and now there is a Fox in the hen house, and they better keep their eye on him and find out exactly what is going on.
Just to be fair,
I think there's an emotional piece to a higher viewership as well.
Just to be fair, I wouldn't. For some, it might be a black man in office, but I think that for
Not
most,
all. No, I don't.
For most,
I
think what we're talking about is a liberal in office. I think that in this day and age, there are still people who are concerned about that, but I think that's a very small percentage.
I think it's so much bigger than we can imagine living in California. Having come from elsewhere, I was really surprised when I just couldn't imagine that he could be in office, because I've grown up in the places that I've grown up, and I understand how different the culture is. We're so liberal here.
Well, but to Susan's point, and Bill O'Reilly did say during the election, because I tried to, as much as I was interested in consuming news then, political news, and to be honest, I'm just not that interested in political news right now, because it's kind of depressing sometimes. It's just a little depressing, and I want to be a happy person by nature, so sometimes I just tune it out and put my head in the sand. But I would check out what Bill O'Reilly was saying, and one of the things he said, I remember very pointedly in sort of his 2-minute audio podcast, was, we're going to need to keep a closer eye on this guy if he's elected, and that is the job. You're right. That is what Fox News is doing. That is its new mission. Now that there is a liberal, very liberal president in the White House, is saying we are the watchdogs. That is the role we are serving. We are the watchdogs, and to their credit, that is working with their viewers. So,
and I think that anyway, so I think that is going to be continuing. It's going to continue to allow Fox to grow.
I wonder why nobody else has jumped on that bandwagon, Alex, when you talked about the market segmentation. That Fox
I'll be honest with you.
Why hasn't somebody else said, let's realize that there are 20 million liberal outlets, and there's only a few meaningful right-leaning ones.
Because it's hard to find that many good journalists that are conservative. I think that's the issue. I mean, it's hard to find. I think it leans so left, which is what everyone complains about and what creates the market segment for Fox to take out. But once you collect all those good conservative, because the people on Fox, they're smart.
Journalists,
It's just but the ones that have moved to the top of most CNN and NPR. It's not just that there were probably good ones out there, but they didn't make it to the top because the entire environment that they're in is liberal. And so the thing is that the ones that made it to the top that actually that got there now are the only ones that you could grab are all the ones that are at Fox, and I think it's very hard to find new ones.
Yeah, I'm a mercenary. I'll write for anyone. So
anyway, what's next?
Okay, so looking towards the future, what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years? So we've been sort of talking a lot about that today, is what's happening now versus what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years. I think it's important to look at whether cord cutting is actually an urban myth. Now that whole adage that cord cutting is an urban myth. I just want to say that I still think that when your baby comes out, you should cut the cord. I'm saying, do not. Don't leave the baby attached to the mom.
Or don't have these little kids walking around with placentas. That's all I'm saying. Cut the cord. Cut it. We've been doing it for thousands of years. Don't stop now.
It is such a funny term, cord cutters, because
it's referring to something.
But it always reminds me, right, of where cutting the cord actually does come from. Okay, fine. So Craig Moffat, who is an analyst with Bernstein Research, put out a report a week or two ago, and we may have addressed this a little bit on last week's TWiM, but my memory is so bad, much like Alex's. It's fading. But we're going to look at it from a new angle this week. So if we talked about last week, this will be a continuation. That if you look at the net additions subscribers for multi-channel video services for cable, satellite, and telco, they rose in the fourth quarter, and those folks added an aggregate of 441,000 subscribers. So rather than more people going without cable and satellite, which there were a lot. Obviously, there was the broader thinking, not just that there is this new media online video belief that you can survive alone on online TV, but there's also the recessionary pressures of this is a way you can save money, but actually it's not happening. But I think it's important to look at, okay, so this might not be happening now. Do we think, because Alex, I mean, in many ways, you built your business 5 to 10 years ago, and what would happen now? I mean, we're all trying to anticipate the future. Okay, so let's acknowledge that it's not happening now to the degree that perhaps some of us thought it would. Will it happen?
Will what happen? I had a hard time following that question. I'm so sorry.
Going without cable and satellite service. I'm sorry. I meant people being able, consumers cutting the cord from cable, satellite, or telco video service and just getting everything online.
Yeah. Well, obviously they have a positive net add, quarter over quarter, year over year. Certainly people are cocooning. They're not going to Aruba. They're staying home and watching HBO and willing to pay for it. So there's definitely that. But what I thought was interesting about it was the number of losses for telephones, landlines. So there's definitely cord cutting in the landline market, but looking at these numbers, not in the cable and satellite market.
And there was a big loss there. I mean, we're talking like more than a million.
1,400,000, and there I got the numbers, 1,427,000 compared to a loss of 618,000. So almost double the number of cord cutters in the telecom.
Do you have a do you have a landline?
Oh, a lot of landlines.
I
got a lot of landlines. I got a lot of cell phones.
You got cable service. You got HBO. No, I don't know.
Now, Daisy, do you have a?
I cut the landline cord in the summer. Yeah, cell phone only.
Yeah, because we cut it 2004.
I think
we got a new one, but the only reason we got one back, well, we just moved, and it was like one of those things that you're just kind of like, I don't really need this, and I don't really want another phone number to give people. I just want the number that is my number. And the other thing is that one of the big reasons I think people are cutting landlines, and this may not last forever, is that when you have a cell phone, you don't get any you don't get sales calls. So a landline is just, I mean, our landline at the office is inundated with these people who want to sell us something. And my cell phone, I had one, and I literally lit up on the guy.
For some reason,
I literally just, I mean, I
what did you say, Alex?
I said many things I can't say on a live show. I was like, no, literally.
You said, I have big thumbs, back away.
No, there was a whole lot of, I will come and find you and kill you if you call me again. It was like, literally like, who the F you are, this is not an open line, this is not a landline, you were calling a cell phone, get the F off my phone. It was, because I feel like we have to hold the line. I have to admit that I have this whole thing about someone calls me on my cell phone that's a sales call, and I have to hold the line. I mean, I don't hand my cell phone out at all. And the thing is you cannot allow people to do that because it's just insane. Because that's why we got rid of it. That's why we cut the line, so they don't call us.
That's why it's going to be harder and harder to do market research and to see what is actually reliable market research, because it's hard to reach people on cell phones. So I think that
but people are using the web to do market research now. I don't think that you have to. Good market research doesn't mean you have to call them on the phone. You can still do online. You can do online chat. There's a lot of ways the web can enable market research that doesn't require telephony connection.
Do you think those are useful, Susan? I mean, because when I take surveys online, I get bored by like the fifth or sixth question. I just want to be done with it. Are people who are taking surveys online, I mean, how much credence can we put in the market research that comes from purely web-based market research?
You can put 100% credence in the market research that's done online if all of the proper things are done ahead of time to conduct that research, which are you understand your target, you find that target, they understand why they're taking it, they're incentivized not to lie, whatever those things are. If you just put a survey up and you just have random people taking that survey, then of course there's going to be a lot of because they have no vested interest in providing that information for you. So it's a quality research program that still will allow you to have just a solid research.
Well, and I think that one of the things about this is that I think that we'll still see a lot of people with their cable connection, and I just saw this when we got our cable connection here in Petaluma, is that it's all bundled together. It's not that much more expensive to have cable, so it doesn't make it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to only get internet because the cable was so inexpensive packed on top of the internet. In fact, like we got 2 phones. We literally got 2 phone lines because it came with it, and we haven't plugged them in yet. Because we're afraid they'll start ringing, and so we're going to cancel that part.
But people are starting to find you on your cell phones. When I made the transition, I migrated my landline number to my cell phone simply because that had been my primary business number. So I wanted it to be easy for people to continue to reach me. So I do still get some of those calls. So it depends on how you make that migration. It doesn't really irritate me though, and I don't yell at them. Although my university calls me every single night. I think they're trying to get people to come to a reunion or to donate money or something, but I see the 401 number. I'm like, ignore.